If you're just trying to learn how to Ollie, this video is for you. What's up guys, Zach from STEERCLEAR Skateboarding here in Florida on an oddly cold day, and I am here to present you guys with the long-awaited Ollie tutorial. Now I'm splitting this video into two parts. Part one that you're watching right now is the super basics of the Ollie. It's targeted for people who are just in the very beginning stages of the Ollie, or maybe even people that haven't even touched a board yet and are just thinking of wanting to learn this trick. So these are the things I'm gonna go over in this video. What an Ollie is, understanding the trick, breaking it down into the 5 basic steps, foot positioning, weight distribution, and practice steps. If you're a little further along in learning how to Ollie, you might want to check out part 2. There I'll be going over common problems and how to fix them and how to further improve your Ollie. This video is going to be the most in-depth Ollie tutorial on YouTube. Now here's a little disclaimer. I'm obviously not the most experienced skater on YouTube. It took me a long time to feel like I had the authority to make a video like this. I made a video of beginners learning how to Ollie. Me and my friends just click that right up there, but it wasn't really a tutorial. I wanted to make something that I wish I had when I was learning how to Ollie. A one-stop place where you can just go watch the video and learn everything you need to know about how to Ollie. I know this is a long video, but if you don't need all of this, there's timestamps right here for what you need and down in the description. Now, I love Braille. I started watching Braille before I even started skating, before I even owned a board. And that's what really got me into skating, and that's how I learned how to do tricks. But I always felt like there was something missing from the Braille tutorials. So I hope this video fills that. This tutorial is built for beginners. I'm gonna try to keep this intro as short as possible. If you've been around for a long time and you wanna know what's going on with the channel, just stick until the end of the video when I explain everything. Let's get right into it. So first off, you might be wondering, what even is an Ollie? Vsauce, Michael here. We're here in downtown Tampa to take slow-mo videos of the Ollie. You may have heard that the Ollie is the most fundamental skate trick, which is very true, but what does that exactly mean? It doesn't mean that the trick is easy. The trick is actually really hard for beginners. It's a motion that you've never experienced before. It takes countless hours of muscle memory, but what it means to be a fundamental trick is that it's a building block for other tricks. It's the basic trick you need for street skating. So this is what you need to learn how to Ollie. First off, you need to be comfortable on your board. And what I mean by that is that you should be able to ride around without fear of falling at any moment. You should be able to push comfortably, take multiple pushes at a time, feel your board, understand how your board moves. In my experience, if you just ride your board everywhere you go for about a month, that's about the amount of time you would need before you're comfortable enough to learn how to Ollie. If you look like this,
I walk around like that, finger on the trigger,
and I see you trying to learn how to Ollie, I'm gonna ask you to try riding your skateboard around for a couple more weeks. You also may want to learn how to ride off a curb. This step isn't super crucial, but it's part of the idea of getting comfortable with your board. It also helps you with taking impact, because when you Ollie and jump, you're gonna be landing a little hard. You also may want to look into some suede thin-soled shoes, or at least shoes that you wouldn't mind getting messed up, because learning how to Ollie, you will mess up your shoes. There's no doubt about that. You will put a hole in your shoes, you will ruin your shoes, and you will cry. Suede is a little more durable than canvas. I highly suggest wearing suede skate shoes, especially thin-soled shoes, because it gives you a little more board feel. Board feel is essentially feeling the board with your feet, feeling all the curves and the edges, and knowing where you are on your board without having to look down. Very helpful. And lastly, you're gonna need the right type of board and the right type of wheels. What I mean by that is that you're gonna want a board that's wide enough to be comfortable for you. You're not gonna want a Walmart board that's gonna flex and possibly break when you land on it. And you definitely want skate wheels. You do not want cruiser or longboard wheels. They're soft and bouncy, and they're gonna be a lot harder to use than skate wheels. Skate wheels are so much lighter. Now let's break the Ollie down into 5 basic steps. Yes, 5. The jump, the pop, the slide, the level out, and the land. The first step to the Ollie is you have to jump. A lot of people will just try to pop the board without jumping. You have to jump to get yourself off the board, and the board kind of just comes up with you. There you go. When you jump, you're gonna wanna jump however is natural to you. If you swing your arms down when you jump, do that. And if you raise your arms when you extend your legs, go ahead and raise your arms. Whatever is natural. It needs to be a natural jump for you to be able to stay balanced on the board. When you wanna jump with your feet about shoulder width apart on the board, that should be about your normal Ollie position anyways. It got really cold. Now the pop is all in the ankle of the back foot. That's where you get all of your power. It's almost like more of a flick than a pop. You should almost think more of a flick than I'm extending my ankle. It's a very fast motion, and you're gonna put all of your pressure right into the ball of your back foot. And that's what's gonna push your nose into the sky and your board off the ground. Next is the slide, or the drag. This is where your front foot slides up the board while your board is going into the air, and essentially it's what levels out the board. Now, the most crucial thing about this step is that you need to think, I'm gonna roll my ankle and roll my ankle up the board. I see so many people trying to slide their front foot flat against the grip tape. You have to tilt the foot over and slide it up the grip tape. That's really what messes up your shoes. Now, this step happens almost at the same time as the pop. As the nose is lifting up off the ground, your foot should already be starting to roll over on the grip tape. Now, this step is probably what's going to take the most practice because of the timing. The timing of this is so crucial. The only real way to learn that timing is to just do it over and over and learn what feels good. Record yourself. Go back and look. Do you need to slow down that front foot, or does that front foot need to start rolling over and sliding up sooner? And that front foot is going to slide all the way up until you reach the nook of the nose, right in that pocket. Once your foot gets there, it's going to help pull the board even higher up off the ground, and then from there you can push forward to level out the board. And that's the next step, leveling out. Once your foot slides up and reaches that nook, you're going to push your front foot forward slightly, forward out in front of you, not down, not up off the board, but forward. Pushing the nose forward is gonna bring the tail up, and that's what levels out the board. That's what makes your Ollie look like a nice Ollie and not a rocket Ollie. You can slide your foot up the board, but if you don't push that front foot out to level out your board, it's just gonna still look like a rocket Ollie. And as you push your foot forward, that should rotate that front foot back down to its normal position, not rolled up onto the side. And from here, you're ready for the landing. At this point, you should have both feet over the bolts. All you gotta do is extend your legs and prepare for a landing. Do not land with your knees locked, or else that will hurt a lot. The shock of the impact will just travel right up your body, up into your spine, and it won't feel very good. Both your feet might not be on the bolts. You might have one foot up on the nose, one foot on the tail. But with practice, you'll learn how to shift your feet in the air just right so that you can land with both feet on the bolts. Just so you get a better picture of what my body is actually doing when I Ollie, this is what it looks like without the board. It's a weird little jump skip thing. You do like a little karate kick. Essentially, you're jumping off both feet, but one foot starts going in the air first while the other one kind of stays behind to flick the board. Then you have to bring both knees up like a tuck jump, and the front foot then extends out a little bit like a karate kick. Now at this point, you know my 5 steps for breaking down the Ollie, so you can go out and watch people Ollie, watch videos of people Ollieing, look for those 5 steps yourself, and try to learn that timing. And if you're like me, you might want to learn the physics of this, how to break it down mechanically. It might help you understand what exactly your body and the board are doing together, but if you're not into that, you can skip this part. So what exactly is your body and the board doing in the Ollie? What is it that makes the board magically pop off the ground, stick to your feet, level out, and land the way it does? So here's what your body's doing. You're squatting down, preparing to jump. As you're extending your legs and you're about to leave the board, that is when your back foot flicks down. That's when the pop happens. It's when you're getting ready to jump, you're extending your legs, you're about to leave the board, that's when your foot flicks down. That's because if you're still on the board and have all your weight on the board and you try to flick down, your board has nowhere to go. This kind of ties into the concept of weightlessness, free fall. The Ollie essentially happens while you're in free fall. You have to get up off the board to let the board come up. Essentially is what you're doing. As you should be leaving the board, instead you're flicking the board, and that's what's making it pop up and follow your feet up. Back foot positioning has a lot to do with the physics of the Ollie. You can think of your back wheels like a fulcrum. You can get more force out of your back foot depending on where you put your back foot. The further towards the tip, the more torque you have and the more force you can put into the tail to make the board pop higher. If you put your front foot a little closer to your trucks, further from the tip of the tail, you have a little less torque, a little less force put into the Ollie. Once you and the board are in the air, you have to keep raising your legs, keep raising your feet, or else the board still has nowhere else to go. If you pop the board and your feet stay down, the board can only go as high as your feet go. You have to keep bringing your feet up so the board can keep rising up. The harder you pop, the higher the board can go, but it's still limited by the ceiling of how high your feet go. So not only are your feet the ceiling of how high your ollie can go, but it's also how high your nose goes. So if you can pop your board and your nose can go more and more vertical, then when you level out your board, your back wheels will meet your front wheels height. And at some point, you have to push the nose forward, because if you pop the board and it stays at that inclined position, at that inclined angle, there needs to be some additional force to level out the board. That's your front foot sliding and pushing forward in that little nook of the nose. Once you get the board leveled out and it's still stuck to your feet, all you gotta do is put your feet back down, land the ollie, boom. To keep the board sticking to your feet, you do have to extend your legs, or else the board is just gonna float away from you. Once you get to your peak height and you still have your legs tucked, the board is also in free fall. So at this point, it's just gonna start falling with you. But to keep it stuck to your feet, you have to extend your legs faster than it's falling. That's what keeps the board stuck to your feet and allows you to make a solid landing without the board like bouncing under your feet. Now, something else to note is that when you're in the air with the board, any additional forces that you add to the board on some axis is gonna make the board move. For example, if your front foot is slightly off center, it's gonna cause the board to flip. So try to keep your feet as close to that center line of the board as possible. The ollie needs to be with your center of mass on the center of the board, on that center line. All right, now for the foot positioning. So your feet should be about shoulder width apart on the board, whatever makes it so that's a balanced and comfortable jump for you. And you want your foot to be parallel on the board. You want your toes to be pointed directly out in front of you, in line with your shoulders. Let's start with the front foot. Your front foot should be a couple inches down from the bolts. You want your front foot here so it has a little bit of room to move up the board. If you have your front foot too close to the bolts, your ollie's just not gonna get high enough. And if you have your front foot too far back from the bolts, it's just gonna be a really uncomfortable ollie, probably will end up being really rocketed. The part of your foot that will be sliding up the board is about right here. You're gonna roll your foot onto the side of your pinky toe, and your pinky toe is what's gonna be going up the side of the board. And that part of your foot is what needs to be in the center of the board. And from there, when you drag your foot up the board, that section of your foot is what needs to be in contact with the board the whole way up the center, right between the center of the two bolts. Otherwise, if you're off center, your board might flip. Now with your back foot. So for your back foot, you want the ball of your foot to be on the center line of your board, but how far up the tail you put your foot is really up to you. The further towards the tip of the tail that you go, the more force you can put into your ollie. But giving yourself a little room from the tip of your tail may be a little more comfortable for you. Personally, I put my back foot right on the tip of the tail with half of my foot even hanging off the board. That's just how I'm comfortable. That's how I get a lot of power out of my ollies. So you want to be really consistent with your foot position. You want to learn the muscle memory and timing of the ollie, especially when you're first starting. If you're changing your foot position with every single ollie, it's gonna be so hard to learn the proper timing and muscle memory for the ollie. So you can mark your board with some chalk, or you can make a little grip tape art design on your board. Just remember where you put your front foot and your back foot every time so that it's consistent. You want your ollies, especially your first ollies, to be as consistent as possible. Once you get into wanting to improve your ollies, you may want to change some stuff around. That's okay. But at first, to learn the timing and the mechanics of the ollie, it is so important to keep your foot positioning the same and consistent. All right, now on to weight distribution. So as you may have guessed, you want your weight distribution to be essentially even between your 2 feet. You want to be able to jump up off your board evenly and comfortably. It should not be an awkward jump. The weight distribution you use when you normally just jump up off the ground, off your 2 feet, should be the same weight distribution you use in your ollie. The only difference with the ollie is as you're leaving the board, your back foot is doing a little flick. Once you get your ollies and timing and mechanics consistent, your ollie will be so well balanced. In your ollie, if you're landing too far over the nose or over the tail, that probably means that your weight distribution is a little bit off. If you're too far forward, try leaning a little bit more back when you go to jump and pop. If you land too far back, try leaning a little bit more forward when you jump and pop. Your weight distribution may be off at the start without you even knowing it, so try to overcorrect just to make it right. All right, now you know everything about how to do the ollie. Now it's time to actually get on the board and give it a try. But what if you're too scared? What What if you don't know where to start? So here's some practice steps that I have found helpful for learning how to Ollie. Now this is where we're going to differ a little bit from Braille. Braille only gives you 2 practice steps, the tail tap and the slide, and that's really all they say you need to know about the Ollie. I'm going to give you a lot more. Practice step number 1, you're just going to jump off your board. You're going to stand on your board, practice jumping evenly off of both feet. You're going to stand on your board, practice jumping evenly off of both feet. You have to then bring your knees up once you're in the air, like a tuck jump. That might even be another practice step, is just practice jumping and tucking up your knees. A lot of people don't realize that when you jump, your legs just stay extended until you reach the ground again. Except in an Ollie, you have to jump, tuck your knees up, and then extend your legs. So tuck jump, box jump, that might help you. If you can jump evenly off the board just like that, the next step you gotta do is add a little bit of flick in your back foot. That leads me to the next practice step, the back foot flick. Just stand beside your board, put your back foot in the Ollie position so you're ready to flick, and just practice flicking the board. Just flick that foot down. It should be a really quick, fast motion. When you flick, bring your toes right back up. Because when you do a real Ollie, you gotta be ready to catch that board as it comes up with your foot. Another really good way to practice this back foot flick is to pick up your board in that really cool way that skaters do. Stand behind your board, have your hand ready to catch it as it comes up, and flick the tail down. The nose should rise up very fast with your hand open, catch it. Could take a little bit of practice, but that flicking motion is the exact same flick motion that you use in the Ollie. Practice step number 3 is that Braille tail tap. I like this practice step that Braille does because it does get you used to what the board will feel like when it's up in that inclined position. Immediately after you jump and immediately as you're popping, that's the position that you're gonna hit. As you're putting that tail down, practice rotating your front foot onto the side of your pinky toe. It's as the board is coming up is when that front foot is rotating. As the board is coming off the ground is then when you slide your front foot up the board. Practice step number 4 is that Braille front foot drag. I really like this practice step too because it's a really uncomfortable motion. If you've never Ollied before, this is gonna be the most uncomfortable thing you will experience when learning how to Ollie. Having your foot rolled onto its side and moving up the board. The weirdest motion you will ever experience, but that's why this practice step is so important. It's because you need to get used to that feeling. You need to get that muscle memory of sliding the front foot up the board. I mentioned this before. What I found helpful was riding off a curb, but it's useful to know what it's like to land on your board with some impact. And from here, if you're still too uncomfortable to try the Ollie right out, you can start in the grass. You can start on carpet, on a rug, fake grass, with skater trainers, or the very cost-effective alternative, tennis balls. Anything to keep your wheels from moving. Similarly, you can learn how to do this while holding on to stuff. If you go and watch that video of us learning how to Ollie, we held onto a fence. Really cringy, hate watching that video, but it's there. Now be very careful with this step because learning how to Ollie stationary is a very, very different feeling from learning how to Ollie while moving. Zach from the future. So I was just watching this while editing and I feel like I didn't explain this as well as I could have. So what I mean by Ollieing stationary is Ollieing with your wheels locked, like your wheels can't move around like on grass and carpet and whatnot. So those are the kind of Ollies that I would suggest starting with. But the problem with that is you have to be careful of what material you're on because grass and fake grass, you won't get the same pop that you'll get on concrete. So that's why a lot of people also like to start out with their back wheels in a crack because then they'll get the nice pop off the concrete and it'll be a lot more snappy and quicker than the response time that you'd get practicing on grass. It's useful to learn how to do this stationary because then you can get the mechanics and the timing of the Ollie down. Then when you get to moving, all you have to learn is the balance. Some people just like to go straight into learning how to do it while moving. If you want to practice an Ollie on concrete, I would suggest moving with a decent amount of speed and it'll be more stable. Because without moving forward with enough momentum, your board can just shift back and forth right when you go for the pop and it's gonna make you go unbalanced and it's gonna be really hard. So if you don't wanna do stationary Ollies, I would suggest going straight for the moving Ollies at a decent pace. And the only other practice step that I can give you is to be comfortable on your board. Like I said at the beginning, if you're not comfortable on your board, I will not suggest that you do this trick. So even though the Ollie is the most fundamental skate trick for street skating, are there any other tricks that you could do before the Ollie, maybe to get you comfortable on your board? The answer is yes, there's a lot of tricks you can do without the Ollie. It would get you more comfortable on the board, but it wouldn't really prepare you for the Ollie. The only tricks that really would prepare you for an Ollie are riding off of a curb or a little bit of like the little super beginner tricks, like I call them tricks that people do when they get a skateboard for Christmas. Other tricks that don't use an ollie are a lot of transition tricks like rock and roll, rock to fakie, dropping in, like a lot of the tricks that we've done on this channel. At this point, you understand the ollie, you know the practice steps, you've given the practice steps a few tries, now all you gotta do is go for it. Go for the ollie. Remember all 5 steps: jump, pop, slide, level out, and land. Thanks so much, Chris, the filmer. Thanks for watching that video, guys. I tried to make it as helpful and detailed as possible. After you give the ollie a few tries, you might want to check out part 2. If that helps you or you like that kind of content, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment below. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else that you guys would want to see? Any kind of tutorials? Also, I can better help you guys with your ollies if I can see your ollies. So if you want to send me a message on Instagram at STEERCLEARSB, I'll take a look at your videos. I can give you some feedback and help you guys out. So, for those of you who have been here for a long time, you know that it was quite some time since my last video. It was, I don't know, by this point, probably 5-6 months, who knows. Now, I don't have an excuse other than I just needed a break. I just recently graduated from college in an engineering program. It was very difficult, very time consuming. I just needed a break from content creating. I never took a break from skateboarding. I always skateboarded at least once a week. I had a little session just practicing my skills, trying not to get rusty. And in those times, I even still was taking videos of myself. It's just that actually putting all the effort and time into making a video was just too time consuming for me. Zach from the future, like Back to the Future, but Zach from the future. So another reason why I haven't been posting a lot of videos is that the content and footage that I have already doesn't feel complete to me. It doesn't feel like I can make a full video out of it because it's a lot of me just trying different tricks but never actually landing them and never learning them. So if I'm going to make a progression video about learning a certain trick, I want the end of the video to be fulfilling. I want to land that trick at the end. And since I haven't landed these tricks that I'm trying, I don't want to make a video about them yet. So until I do, I might just keep making tutorials if you guys like this kind of content. But I really want to get back on this YouTube grind, really want to grow this channel. And speaking of growing the channel, I kind of want to do something different with this channel. For a long time, I've been thinking of rebranding the channel as just STEERCLEAR instead of STEERCLEAR Skateboarding because I want to make content that's other than just skateboarding content. Now, with that said, skateboarding will always be the core of this channel, skateboarding progression and tutorials. But sometimes I just get the craving to make other content like vlogs, even gaming videos. So rebranding as just STEERCLEAR and expanding the channel to beyond just skateboarding is something that I've been wanting to do, and it would allow me to make that content. And with more types of content, you'll probably see a lot more of Daniel and Noah and our other friends. I've even been thinking of streaming on Twitch. Let me know what you guys think about that, because we like to think that you guys click on our videos for skateboarding and stay because of our personalities. So streaming on Twitch is something where you guys can still get content from us that's not skateboarding related, if you guys are interested in our personalities. Maybe even a TikTok? What? So thank you guys for sticking around and listening to that. If you guys did make it this far in the video, thank you very much. Leave a comment down below, something along the lines of Mongo is elite. Change my mind. Oh man. STEERCLEAR Skateboarding. Oh, STEERCLEAR. We out.
Oh yeah. So sensual.
I'm trying to make this video the most in-depth. And pop up. Gonna be the most in-depth. I'm trying to make this video the most.
Steady spaghetti. Just do it.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Vsauce, Michael here.
Oh yeah, booty.
I'm trying to make this video the most in-depth tutorial. What the?